I've got some new info on the David case for you guys today. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look back at some of the very sort of bizarre symbolism that he kind of planted in his music and in his music videos and, things that he said about some of his favorite mangas. Basically, all of this dark, death fueled symbolism that he left throughout his career. That now, with everything that we know with the case that's going on with Celeste, looks very, very suspicious and incriminating. And it really looks like this guy planted clues all throughout his career as if he was planning to do this the whole time. There's stuff from before you could have even imagined he would have even been in the situation where he would end up with a dead minor in his trunk, where he's got people being cut up in music videos and girls in the videos that look just like the girl that was found dead in his trunk, Celeste, is really, really bizarre. So I'm going to break all of that down to you in this video. I've got some kind of really interesting, new tidbits from that period of time, and it's just going to add more fuel to the fire that this guy's cooked, that there's just mountains of evidence against him, his own symbolism. This might not do anything in a court of law, but as far as people just looking into this case, understanding the mind of this twisted person that would have done this, kind of making sense. So I'm going to show you a few things. So basically, all right, there's actually been some updates from a few different channels and sort of people around the internet looking into true crime that have found a few interesting things, okay? Apparently there's some quality research from True Crime with Strategic Eyes that have linked details of the case to David's favorite manga, suggesting some very disturbing symbolism. So if you look at the autopsy info, which I've got on the screen for you here, as we know, this confirmed that Celeste was dismembered. Her arms were cut off, the legs were then cut off and then cut in half. As you can see here the lines where that would have taken place. But one of the really dark things that we talked about in a previous video was the fact that there was some stuff missing. When the police actually got into the Tesla and got the remains out, there were a few things missing that were very, very dark, and these details were very chilling. So, trigger warning for you before I get into it. But basically, it says here she was missing her left eye. Here it says not present, and 2 fingers on her left hand were not present, as you can see here. These 2 fingers, it says absent, not present. So yeah, that's on its own really, really horrible. Just even to know that was the state that the body was left in, and there were things missing. We talked previously about David, taking this fake finger on tour, and that was a symbolism from some stuff that he had seen previously, and it seems like this is part of a wider pattern. So according to True Crime with Strategic Eyes, these specific injuries do actually mirror events described in the manga series. So listen to this breakdown.
Do bad stuff to just grape her. The main character's wife. This is the main character's wife, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the state of the body. The protagonist's wife is abducted by a serial killer, mutilated, and sent to him by mail in a freezer-type shipping box. Her arms and legs. Her arms and legs are both removed. This experience causes the detective's personality to split, becoming a detective and a serial killer simultaneously. Let me bring your attention to Celeste's autopsy. Her arms and her legs have been severed. Let's go back to MPD Detective, this popular Japanese anime and manga. Her arms and her legs have been separated, ladies and gentlemen. Celeste, the detective's wife. Let's keep going.
So just to give you some context, okay, to what we're actually looking at here, this is a manga that David is apparently obsessed with. And this is actually ridiculous when you start actually looking into the details. MPD Psycho, short for Multiple Personality Detective Psycho. So now you might have heard in previous videos we've talked about David. He had this Itami character. He was starting the David universe, and he was going to have all these characters, and he was going to drop his own manga. And he said that this Itami character was his dark alter ego, and that he was essentially having two personalities where one part of him was committing murders and then another part of him was supposed to solve them. Come to find out, he stole the whole idea from this multiple personality detective Psycho. But anyway, this is a really big series. Okay, it follows a police detective suffering from multiple personality disorder. So it says Yosuke Kobayashi is a detective and is on the case of a serial killer who dismembers his victims. The killer later sends Yosuke's girlfriend dismembered but kept alive. What? Yosuke hunts down the killer but loses his sanity and develops dissociative identity disorder in the process, with the two main personalities being Kazuhiko Amiyana, a cool-headed detective, and Shinji Nishizono, a reckless psychopath. After being placed in prison for murdering the killer, Yosuke Kobayashi is released and works for an independent detective agency run by Machi Isono. Later serial killers are appearing with barcodes in their left eyes, which Yosuke Kobayashi also has. Yosuke Kobayashi investigations lead him to believe he is not who he thinks he is, and that his Kazuhiko and Shinji personalities have existed since childhood. During the case known as the Lucky Seven, Shiji gains control of Yosuke Kobayashi and disappears. So there's a bunch of stuff that goes on with these, with barcodes and different personalities and personalities being transferred to other people. But basically, it seems quite similar to some of the stuff that David was describing in his own manga. And the fact here that it says here, he appears to be a police detective working on a serial killing case while tracking down a serial killer who mutilates his victims by severing their limbs. His girlfriend is mutilated by the killer, who claims to recognize the detective as a fellow psychopath. After tracking down the killer, Shinji Nishizono, an arrogant and callous psychopath, emerges and shoots the killer. It's the fact that he was doing this. Not only that, but there's more little details, basically, that kind of line up with some of the things that we're actually seeing in this case. And yeah, I see now when you look back at all of the stuff he was saying, he was dropping a manga and he was investigating his own murders. It just seems so much more deranged. But not even that original creative.
In MPD Psycho, the repeated removal of left ring and pinky fingers is mainly symbolic and structural identity reduction. Fingers, especially on the left hand, are tied to identification and uniqueness. Removing them shows a person being reduced to partial, incomplete identity, fragmented self. The series heavily explores split or unstable identities and psychological fragmentation. The left side theme. The left side often represents distortion, instability, or altered perception in the series. Loss of connection, ring, pinky fingers symbolically relate to social ties and binding relationships. Their removal suggests severing connection to normal life or identity or relationship. Overall, the left finger mutilations are used to show the victims are being treated as broken, deconstructed identities rather than whole people, matching the series' focus on psychological and bodily fragmentation. Ladies and gentlemen, in this anime, one of the victim's fingers on the left hand were removed, the same fingers that were removed from Celeste. I'll bring you back to Celeste's autopsy. Yet again, her left pinky and ring fingers have been removed. Let's keep going. Left eye. Left eye.
That's crazy.
In MPD Psycho, the barcodes over the left eye are part of the story's larger idea that certain people are artificially manipulated or programmed. What the left eye barcode means, identification cataloging, the barcode functions such as a literal product code. It marks individuals as if they are items in a system, not independent people. Now, understand, people, this is anime. Anime can be so deep and profound because I'm also a fan of anime. And so for a lot of you guys, you're watching this, you're listening to this, and you're like, what are they talking about? It's because the authors of these shows construct entire worlds. And as you read or you watch, whether you're watching it on the TV or you're watching print media, you're getting sucked into that world.
So he's saying that he's recreating, he's being described here as a copycat killer. And the fact that it was the left eye and the left fingers that were missing exactly the same as played out in the anime is extremely creepy. Now, we saw some other interesting updates about the timeline, especially when it comes to the alleged, not even alleged at this point, we know that it happened, but the dismemberment and, what actually happened to the body. They're saying that there was a window of time between April the 23rd and May the 5th when, David left the property and then he came back, and they're saying that May the 5th is the date that it happened. Steve Fisher would kind of give some updates on this in his recent interview. And shout out to Gideon, who had him on his show. Hopefully, I'll be going on his show very soon. But he had Steve on, who gave basically a breakdown of the timeline of David's movement and the window when the alleged dismemberment happened. And again, these things are kind of quite interesting when you lay out the timeline like this.
For a couple of days. And so he's moving on. Like, I'm talking.
I didn't even know that.
So then he goes to Houston for a couple of days. And so he's moving on. Like, I'm talking, he has if prosecutors are correct about the 23rd being the day, and I believe they are because there's somebody that obviously gave them the information, then within hours, he's fine. He's in a mindset where he's like, I'm ready to go to the party. I'm ready to go to New York. It's not affecting him. Now, we do see, it's kind of like this, almost like an adrenaline rush. There's all these posts and he's playing these shows and these pop-ups, but then there's like this crash. He goes somewhat, a lot more silent, after the dismemberment. And he goes to Seoul, Korea for pop-up, and he's in Malaysia. It's really wild to see that. So, yeah, so to get back to your point, so there's the murder and the dismemberment, and that. So our big questions are: where did he murder her? Where did he then store her for those 10 days or so until he dismembered her, 10 days or more? And then why does she end up in the Tesla? And why does she stay in the Tesla in his neighborhood? When I started interviewing with, before we knew all these data points, I was interviewing obviously neighbors, asking for video surveillance and whatnot. And, the people right across the street, directly across the street, and this is a neighborhood with very large houses and big yards and security systems and everything like that. And I was over at the house directly across the street, which is owned by a producer, and I was dealing with his estate manager. And she said, one of the dogs, so the property, it's a big property, and their fence line butts up to the road. David would often mostly time park the Tesla on their property line, off to the side of the road. So it butted up to their yard. And she said, we started getting this horrible smell, and we had one of the dogs had died, and they had buried the dog in the backyard, and it was like a husky, it was a larger dog. And she's like, anytime it would get over to be like 75, 76, 77 degrees, the backyard would smell horrible. She's like, so we thought we didn't bury the dog deep enough. So they were getting ready to unearth this dog and bury it deeper. And then all this happened, and the Tesla went away, and then everything was fine. But
so that's just some crazy backstory, right? They got to the point where the neighbors, on a sunny day, they would smell something so bad in the neighborhood that they thought their dead dog that they buried was needing removal. And then it turns out it's David's Tesla all along. Now, how insane is that? But when you combine that with, the timeline, he was apparently, flying off to South Korea after the dismemberment allegedly happened, with the car just still in the neighborhood. Come to find out, these manga fantasies that he's carrying out, it's just insane. So Steve kind of continues to break down and update the timeline, and what he says here is really interesting, because he believes that David must have had an accomplice in what happened after the alleged murder, basically. Specifically when it comes to the dismemberment, that's not something that you can just do on your own very easily, clearly. And he's fairly convinced that there was some kind of accomplice. And I do wonder if more charges are coming soon.
You said they. So do you think David had help?
I think he had help. I don't think he can do it by himself. I'm not saying in the murder itself, but I do think in the dismemberment, or at least the moving around, I think he had help. So, and I think people are going to fall for that. I think there's going to be other people that go down. I don't know why he didn't just get rid of the body. And that'll always be, I don't think he'll ever say why he did it. And I don't think it'll ever come to that. But I think that the only thing I can think of was a trophy of sorts for him. And because listen, it's not that hard to go, you can drive 5 miles from that house and you'd be on Pacific Coast Highway and just let that Tesla go off into the ocean, off a cliff, or have somebody steal it and get rid of it, whatever, have it gone forever. He kept it in the neighborhood. He was moving it around when he dismembered her. People had reported to us that they noticed that it started being parked in different locations starting in May. And he's keeping it close by, and then he goes on tour. and just leaves it there. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. Like, there's got to be some sort of it's got to be some sort of trophy thing, because there's plenty of opportunities to get rid of that car.
So he thinks that he kept not only the alleged fingers and eye as a trophy, but the body itself, the car, everything. He's saying there's so many places and opportunities that he could have had to dispose of the body, and he felt like he just couldn't let it go. He was going on tour to South Korea and coming back to the body. He was playing these shows in the end of April, deciding what to do, and then coming back and he did whatever he had decided that he was going to do. And it's crazy, and it's unlikely that he was able to do what ended up happening by himself. Now, Steve would also say that there was an update coming, or that he will be doing an update on Celeste's ring, and he revealed some behind-the-scenes information on what was apparently happening between David and Celeste when all of this happened.
She did, and that finger's gone.
So
And
the
she also
tattoo
had-
with the tattoo was still on her body, but the
That was
David
still
tattoo-
there, but the ring finger, and the other finger on the other hand were gone, and that's the one that has the David, and also she had a ring from him, and
So if you remember, there's been a few images that have gone around with her. She looked like she had an engagement ring. There's a picture where she took a picture of her hand. You can see the tattoos on the fingers, but also what looked like an engagement ring. So Steve's basically saying, yeah, that she had a ring from him.
well, there's a little bit more information on that I can't give out yet, but if we talk again in like another week or 10 days, I think I can give out some information on that. But that's gone. And what was the first part of the question?
And the other part was about the other Celeste. A lot of people like to use her as a scapegoat. Like the live stream. A lot of people are like, no, that's not her. That's the other Celeste. That's the of age Celeste.
So there is another Celeste that was not super close. She was really close with Asia, or who's one of the people that was like always around. So that was just a coincidence. There was another Celeste. It wasn't a decoy or anything like that. So yes, there was an adult Celeste. It's not, but that 100% is her in the live stream, and the delete everything live stream. That's her. That's Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the minor. And she, I think that's very calculated. One thing I've heard about what was happening at the end was she had lost all respect for David. She knew, she figured out, like, she'd now been isolated, taken away from her school, from her family. She was being isolated and just used as an object when it was convenient for him. And she had lost respect for him. And when she came out and said, oh, like child rape on that, that was Celeste. Celeste was smart. She knew. And that was her calling him out. I don't think that was by accident,
No.
That's crazy. So he really is saying that actually at the end she had lost all respect for him and she was ready to out him. And that clip in the live stream was real. And when she made the joke about him having interest in kids and that being controversial, that was basically, kind of a warning shot to David. And apparently, as Steve said it, she had lost all respect for him. Now, some of the other stuff that's been going on through basically going around Reddit, as people are pointing out, more kind of disturbing symbolism related to David's past career. This was an interesting post from a day ago in D4VD. It says his latest album has 14 tracks and it's 1 hour and 14 minutes long. I never noticed that before. That's kind of messed up. Do you think that's a coincidence? People in this Reddit thread, they're saying this man is sick. His standard edition album has 14 tracks, with the 14th track being Ghost. And the 15th track he added later being Afterlife. That's actually twisted. Can that be a coincidence? It says the entire deluxe and extended album is 1 hour and 14 minutes long. Crazy how he planned all of this out to coincide with the age of Celeste. Then you add that to the fact that the car was towed, I believe, on what would have been her 15th birthday. That's crazy. It says someone pointed out in the comments the standard album is 15 songs with Afterlife, and that the deluxe album was 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, so people saying the connection is still there. Could be a reach, all right? People are saying sign the change.org petition to stop them streaming David's music. It said someone in here said he'd like to play with numbers and use them in several songs. I mean, he has the number 4 in his name. Says the number 4 is considered evil in Japan, and that's why he's used it in his name. People are saying I don't think it's a coincidence. But yeah, there's different versions of the album. I don't know. I feel like that's probably a little bit of a reach, but also, you know, it looked like we saw that picture on his Finsta account where, you know, the last day Celeste had been seen. There was a picture of some rocks in the woods that looked like he'd spray painted the word 14 on it. A little bit creepy. Now, there's been a few new posts going around. There's this post going around, which is kind of unrelated, but people are sort of dragging up some of the history when it comes to Celeste's family. So I believe it's been said that this is her cousin that's been posting. She made a bunch of posts, and she actually said that David had threatened her, it seemed, in a post. And she's now posting about this Gus guy that, you know, they said was essentially involved with Celeste romantically before David, and that's the person she was with first. He ended up getting shot and killed, allegedly for completely unrelated reasons. But now Celeste's cousin is posting this, says, "This makes me genuinely sick to my stomach knowing this PDF was a family friend." And it's the video of that Gus guy. And it said, "This is Wendy's first time commenting about Gus. It seems she didn't know that Gus had done bad things to Celeste when she was only 10 years old. She acknowledges he was a family friend and is noticeably upset. For those new to the case, Gus was a gang member family friend from Lake Elsinore who did bad things to Celeste and was eventually shot and killed during a gang-related incident. David has nothing to do with his death, so don't make any new theories involving it. The person who shot Gus was arrested and charged." It says, "Wendy is the only consistent family member that's been fighting for Celeste since the beginning of the tragedy, and don't bully her, okay? The shooting location was only a 4-minute drive from Celeste's house." I didn't think that. All right. That's interesting, okay? So another piece of news, I'm just going to hit you with a few extra links at the end of this video, which don't kind of relate to the main theme, but I just wanted to give you my thoughts on this. This is Fortnite now breaking their silence on the David cosmetics that were in their game with self-service refund. Yes, Fortnite are officially refunding anybody that bought any kind of skins from this alleged PDF murderer, okay? It says Fortnite players will be able to refund David cosmetics after days of backlash, but Epic Games has not said whether the singer's items will be fully removed from the game. Players have been calling on Epic to remove David from Fortnite after prosecutors revealed new details in the criminal case against him. We know what that's all about. So the backlash centered on David's presence in Fortnite, where he has several items tied to his music and branding. His cosmetics include the Locked and Loaded and What Are You Waiting For jam tracks, the Feel It and Trophy Drop emotes, and a personalized bundle that launched in April 2025. If this wasn't a game aimed towards children, you wouldn't see as much backlash. But this guy, this PDF murderer, allegedly, he had skins on Fortnite. He had the original pipeline to these kids, all right? It's actually ridiculous that this was allowed to happen in hindsight. It says Fortnite status account responded to concerns and confirmed players will be able to refund the David items. It said Fortnite seemingly accepting refund requests for the David cosmetics. And it says, we hear the concerns. We have a bunch of changes we're rolling out. The first one will be available on Tuesday, April 28th. Anyone who purchased one of these items will be able to get an immediate self-service refund. So they're giving back the money, basically. They're saying get your money back, all right? And players don't even have to wait until April 28th to get a refund sooner, okay? You can just get requests via player support. If you don't want to support David, you want to claw your money back from him, you can go ahead and head on over to Epic Games support, okay? So the last things that I want to leave you with is just some reaction on Reddit, because people are finally getting their lick back on David. They're basically, you know, clawing money back from him, finding ways to just, you know, he's not getting any more deals. His brand deals have reversed. He's been dropped from his label. If people are successful with this petition, they might be able to get him off streaming services. But it says that's the dark side of crossovers. When you do an IP crossover, you can draw in fans of either IP. But when one IP has a fall from grace, both IPs suffer. Hard to imagine a crossover going worse than this. That is probably as bad as it can get as far as an endorsement. It says, I'd never heard of this guy prior to the dead little girl being found in his car, and I don't play Fortnite, but it seems like a no-brainer to delete his presence from the game. I don't know where the line is for what behavior should warrant that, but a dead kid being found in your car and being charged with murder has to be on the other side of it, okay? He does play Fortnite. Apparently, he was online the day he got arrested. But let's not forget, he allegedly met her on Fortnite. So they really don't want to be associated with Fortnite was allegedly the pipeline for him to find this girl. Allegedly, in people's opinion. Some Reddit Discord threads would seem to suggest that might have been what happened. But it is really dark. I've done a whole bunch of videos about the symbolism in David's music that relates to what ended up happening. You can go back and watch some of those if you want. But this is just kind of the latest update as far as people actually noticing the autopsy lines up to this really just dark content that this guy was obsessed with. And yeah, I'm getting a bit tired of it at this point, because it's just there's just so much. There's so many coincidences and it just keeps on getting worse. So I'm going to keep track of this. I know, I think there's going to be a court date in the next couple of days. I won't be attending, but I will be keeping track of any updates, and I will be doing some, I probably will be doing some courtroom reporting probably in the next few weeks. I'm going to try and keep track of what's going on and when the next dates are. And I'll be sure to keep you guys updated with that. But thank you so much for tapping in for this coverage, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Until then, I'm out. Peace.